Thank you very much, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone. It's good to see you again. If you weren't informed, there is a program change today. And here it is. In your program booklet, there's a QR code that will take you to the page that shows you the current program and also the artists' bios. So today, there's an interesting juxtaposition of composers and arrangers. The first is Nadia Boulanger, who is probably the most influential musician teacher of the 20th century. And the next person, Elliott Carter, was a pupil of Nadia Boulanger. The next person, Jean Francais, was a pupil of Nadia Boulanger. And so was Philip Glass, a pupil of Nadia Boulanger. Now, the first piece and the Glass were both arranged by our bassoonist today, Carl Lamour. And the last piece, the Mozart Serenade, was arranged by Mordecai Rechman, who was also a bassoonist. So we have a lot of connection with teachers and bassoonists in this program. It's been estimated that Nadia Boulanger had over 600 pupils. Some of the world's most noted musicians and artists, and here are some of them. I'm sure you'll recognize quite a few. Daniel Barenboim, Sir Lennox Berkeley, Idil Biret, Aaron Copland, David Diamond, Roy Harris, both American composers, Dina Lupati, the famous pianist, Igor Markevich, conductor, Astor Piazzolla, Julia Perry. We heard a piece by Julia Perry not too long ago. George Walker, we just heard a piece by him in January, his string quartet. Robert Russell Bennett, one of the great arrangers, composers for Broadway, for musical shows, just a brilliant orchestrator. Clifford Curzon, the pianist, Donald Erb, composer, Irving Fine, composer, Krzysztof Penderecki, a Polish composer, Andrzej Panofnik, Ralph Kirkpatrick, harpsichordist, Gail Kubik. That is not a mistake. He is famous for, how many people will recognize Gerald McBoing Boing? Hands? Anybody? Okay. He wrote the music for that cartoon, and it was voted, it got a 1950 Oscar for the best animated short, and in 1994 it was voted number 9 of the 50 greatest cartoons. So let's listen a little bit of Gerald McBoing Boing.
This is the story of Gerald McCloy and the strange thing that happened to that little boy. They say it all started when Gerald was 2. That's the age kids start talking, at least most of them do. Well, when he started talking, you know what he said? He didn't talk words. He went instead. What's that?
So if you haven't guessed, that was from a Dr. Seuss book. All right, let's keep going. Sylvia Marlowe, harpsichordist. John Carlo Menotti, Tia Musgrave, composers. Jeanette Neveu, famous French violinist. Walter Piston, American composer. Stanislav Skorovačevský, conductor. Henrik Schering, famous violinist. Virgil Thompson, composer. Kathleen Ferrier, legendary English contralto. And Quincy Jones and Burt Bacharach. This is Nadia Boulanger. She was the first European to take American composers seriously. And George Gershwin went over to take lessons from her. They talked for about a half an hour, And she said, I can teach you nothing. Because George Gershwin had found his voice already. And that's what she encouraged her students, composers, to do, was find their own voice. And Gershwin also went to Ravel for lessons. And Ravel asked him, how much does he make a year? Gershwin told him, Ravel said, I should be taking lessons from you. But she was very critical of herself, as she was of her students. She said she realized when she was 20 that she wasn't a composer. And Gabriel Fauré, the great French composer, told her she was mistaken. But she said, if I'm certain of one thing, is that I wrote useless music. But we'll hear some of her music today. But she did win the second Grand Prix de Rome for a cantata, La Sirène. It was said that her memory was prodigious. By the time she was 12, she had memorized and could play every one of Bach's well-tempered clavier, 24 preludes and fugues in every key, major and minor. Stravinsky said her ear was legendary. He said she heard everything. And even, he said, if a composer brought her a new work, she would find mistakes in that composer's work. Now you say, well, how's that? I mean, the composer wrote it. He ought to know if he made mistakes or not. But Leonard Bernstein tells the story of the first time he met her. They talked, and she said, play me something of yours. So he started playing one of his piano pieces, and he got to a strong B flat in the left hand. She said, stop, that B flat is all wrong. He said, what do you mean it's all wrong? She said, because you just played a B flat in the right hand. It should be something different. It should have more variety. Don't repeat the same notes. Igor Markevich, the conductor, said that for the first year, they would study a Bach cantata, a different Bach cantata every week. He said, she revealed these works to us in an extraordinary way. We had the feeling that until then we had remained on the surface, that suddenly we penetrated their inner meaning, their very structure. The works took on a dimension that we might never have been aware of. When she was asked if she could tell a masterpiece if she heard it, she said, I don't know. I won't say that it doesn't exist, but I don't know what it is. I can tell whether a piece is well made or not, but there are conditions without which a masterpiece cannot be achieved. But what defines a masterpiece cannot be pinned down. I won't say the criterion for a masterpiece does not exist, but I don't know what it is. Now, she left France at the very last minute before the invasion in November of 1940. She got to the United States, and she was hired at the Longy School of Music in Boston. She also taught Peabody Conservatory, Baltimore, the Juilliard School, the Yehudi Menuhin School, the Royal College of Music, and the Royal Academy of Music. She taught harmony, fugue, counterpoint, and advanced composition. She was the first woman to conduct many of the world's great orchestras in Europe and in America: the BBC Symphony, the London Philharmonic, the Boston Symphony, the Halle Orchestra, the New York Philharmonic, the National Symphony, and the Philadelphia Orchestra. She spent most of her teaching life in her family's flat in London, and she taught there until her death at age 92 in 1979, teaching almost to the end. And she said many important things in her lifetime, but I read the one that stands out to me is, and it seems to me universal. She said, "It seems to me that the only quality lacking in many people is attention." And I think that's very, very true. So the first piece the Boulanger three pieces started life as an organ work, and became very popular in an arrangement she did for cello and piano. Now, I tried to find the organ music. I could not find it. It's very hard to find. I couldn't even find a recording of it. But here is some of the cello and piano version. Very beautiful. It's very reminiscent of Gabriel Fauré, and you can see why he thought she should continue. A really nice touch, I don't know if you caught it, at the very end is the imitation. The cello plays phrase, the piano plays it, echoes it. Another cello phrase and another piano echo. Here it is. Cello. The third movement is very different. Let's hear a little bit of that. After hearing that, I have a hard time envisioning what the organ piece sounded like. I mean, it sounds so idiomatic for cello and piano. But our arranger, Carol Lamour, said she did find the organ version, and she used both for her version we'll hear today. Next is Elliott Carter. He said of this piece, in 1948, several woodwind players asked me to write a work for woodwind quintet. On looking over some earlier quintet works, I found the composers were in the habit of overlooking the fact that each of these instruments has a different sound. I, on the other hand, was particularly struck by this, and so decided to write a work that would emphasize the individuality of each instrument and that made a virtue of their inability to blend completely. You'll hear that. I mean, the first movement sounds like each player is playing a different piece. Let's hear that. There are two movements. The second movement is very complex rhythmically. Now, I've played this piece, and it is very difficult to put together. But once you get it put together, it's a lot of fun to play. So let's hear that. Yeah, it's hard, but it's fun. The next piece is the Jean Francais, Wind Quartet. He started composing when he was 6, and Nadia Boulanger said he's one of her best pupils. He won first prize in piano at the Paris Conservatory, and he wrote eventually over 200 pieces in a wide variety of styles, but he always had a unique voice. I was lucky enough to be able to play with him on a European tour one time, and he's a fabulous pianist. And his style is always witty and light. And that changed very little throughout his career. And I think his time at the Paris Conservatory influenced his handling of wind instruments, because the Paris Conservatory was the prime place for wind study, the study of wind instruments. Almost all the virtuosi in Europe, sometime or another, studied at the Paris Conservatory. So let's hear a little bit of the Francais. Very light and witty. This is the end of the first movement. His slow movements many times have this French wistfulness about them. That's very beautiful. And more humor in the third movement. fourth movement. And he always has something unexpected, and this is the end of the fourth movement. It's a fun piece to play. Next composer is Philip Glass, and this is a piano piece. He started playing flute early, and at 15 he entered the University of Chicago, where he studied mathematics and philosophy. He also studied at the Juilliard School, where piano was his main instrument. His fellow students were Steve Reich and Peter Schickele. You know that name. P.D.Q. Bach. In 1964, he received a 2-year Fulbright scholarship to study with Nadia Boulanger. And he said she influenced his work throughout his life. Ravi Shankar is another musician who he said had a major influence on his life. And once he became under the influence of Shankar, he renounced all his previous compositions and began writing in music based on these repetitive Indian structures, what would later be called minimalism. He's written 15 operas, numerous chamber operas, and musical theater works, 15 symphonies. And the 15th symphony was just in the news recently. If you hadn't heard about that, Google that, see what you come up with. The 15th symphony. 12 concertos, 9 string quartets, various other chamber music pieces, and many film scores. And he's received nomination for 4 Grammys. Now, this etude was taken from the second book of piano etudes. And so let's hear a little bit of this. It's instantly recognizable as something by Philip Glass. This minimalist, repetitive style can be very hypnotic. I'm not a fan, I'll be honest. But what I'm really interested in is hearing how Carole Amour arranged that piece for woodwind quintet. It can't be easy. I mean, because it's such a pianistic work, I'm really interested in how she did that. I told her, I'm really interested in that. The last piece is a Mozart serenade arranged by Mordecai Rechman. And that picture on the left is him at age 10. The one on the right is him at age 94. He was the principal bassoonist of the Israel Philharmonic from 1946 until 1991. Professor of bassoon at Tel Aviv University from 68 to 02, taught as guest professors at Indiana University School of Music, Juilliard School, and the Royal Academy of Music. And he's well known for all his transcriptions that he's done, over 200 of music for wind groups, wind ensembles. So the piece that he arranged today, that we're going to hear today, is this Mozart Serenade number 12 in C minor, written between 1782 and 83 by Mozart. Originally, it was for pairs of oboes, clarinets, bassoons, and horns, an octet. And the word serenade is a bit misleading. Mozart wrote 13 numbered serenades that were intended as entertainment music, either indoor or outdoors. Some of the string pieces were probably indoor, and there were plenty of wind serenades that were for outdoors. But in this particular setting, this piece does not fit the mold of an entertainment. First of all, it's in the minor key. Second, it has no dance movements, which a serenade typically would have. Has a minuetto, but I'll get to that. Thirdly, it's much too dramatic and serious. It's a very serious work. Let's hear some of the first movement in the original form. Not entertaining music. There's a lot of deep working going on in that. He also arranged this piece for string quintet, Mozart did, and it is the second of his string quintets. And listen to how he used it in 2 violins, 2 violas, and cello. Now, recently it's been arranged for oboe and string quartet because the oboe part in the octet and in the quintet are almost identical. So the oboists have come up with a new piece that they can play, the original by Mozart. The seriousness is all broken in the second movement. But for me, the most interesting part of this piece is the third movement, the minuetto. It's a minuetto in canone. It's a canon. And you'll see that the oboes start, that's the oboe line. That's the bassoon line. Then the bassoons come in and play identically, one bar apart from what the oboes have played. So let's hear that. See if you can follow both lines. You break the canon here, but the clarinet will start it. Here, oboe, bassoon. Now the trio to that minuet is even more ingenious than what we just heard. I'm going to play it for you first, and now I'll explain what's going on. I repeat. First oboe, bassoon. Second bassoon. Second oboe, first bassoon. Now, those of you who read music can see what's going on. Mozart writes a mirror canon, or a canon by contrary motion. He writes trio in canone al rovescio, upside down. So if you look, second oboe, the pitches go up, first oboe, the pitches go down. They follow exactly in mirror image, the whole way to the cadence. The bassoon does the same thing, playing a completely different piece. He goes up, down, down, up. Ingenious. I mean, if you didn't know that, it's a lovely little piece, but it is such an ingeniously written piece. It's not only a canon, it's a double canon. Here's one canon, and here's the other canon. But they both follow the mirror image of the upside down in rovescio. The fourth movement back to the dramatic themes. So it's very dramatic again, and it's in the form of theme and variations. Now, how many heard my talk in January on the Beethoven Eroica? What did I say about theme and variations in the Eroica? I said it was weak. I thought it was a weak way to end that massive symphony. Here, I think it works very well. But, you know, that's just my opinion. But on the fourth movement, the sun, at the end of the fourth movement, the sun finally breaks through. So I think this serenade, at least for wind players, it's just a masterpiece, and it's so gratifying to play. And so 3 of these pieces I've had the opportunity in my career to play. But I hope you have as much enjoyment listening to them as I did playing them. So it's good to see you today. Thank you. Thank you.